Hello. Today I'm going to go over some tips and tricks for the Empire Under the Pun achievement, which requires you to begin as the Sikh Empire and subjugate Great Britain. Before you get started on the achievement, I think you need to look at the Sikh Empire and what you need to do to get to the achievement. So let's start there. I'm going to open up a new game. You start off a few very important characteristics. First of all, you have 16 million people. You're the 10th largest population in the entire world right now. So you have a lot of people, which is a very good thing. It means you have a lot of potential workers. As you grow, you're not going to have trouble with workers. What else do you have? Currently, you're number 14 in the world. Army is pretty big. You have 100 regulars right now. You have a pretty strong army. So that's good. That means early expansion you can actually do if you choose to do so. Let's look at laws. Politics. So right now your government, Maharaja is part of the armed forces, which is the only thing in government. You can see that the major clout to start the game is actually in the landowners. And then second is Sikh priesthood, and then the armed forces. My recommendation, change this as quickly as possible. You need to get the clout away from the landowner. Let's look at the laws themselves. Now we've seen who's in power. We know that the landowners are in power. So we start off as a monarchy and an autocracy. You can see right now there's not a lot of stuff you can do to start off. No colonial affairs, closed borders. At least slavery's banned, so that's good. No schools, no health system, no social security, legal guardianship for women. Child labor allowed. Serfdom still exists. A lot of things are difficult. What you're going to want to do here, what I focused on first, I need to get rid of colonial affairs. So you want one of these two. So that means you have to research colonization, which you can see there in the box here is an X. So it's not actually researched yet. You're going to have to do that. Actually, both of these are supported right now. So you actually can go for resettlement or exploitation. Education is also equally important. I would want some sort of education. Early on, it's going to be difficult because the people who want private and public schools don't have any clout right now. You may have to go to religious schools for a while, but at least if you go to religious schools, you'll get some education access. Why is education access extremely important? And it's really because of the technology tree, which is a major part of my strategy and why I was successful. We'll come back to technology tree in just a moment. Next, I do not like monarchy. I want to get rid of monarchy, but if you try to do it early on, you can see there's no support for it. You're not gonna be able to do it. And really, there's no support for distribution of power either. However, this can change pretty quickly. You can get landed voting pretty quick. It's possible to change this. And what this will do, this is going to cause parties to emerge. It's going to change the clout of each one of these parties, right? So that's actually really important to me. It will usually lower the clout of the landowners over time. And that's what I want to do. And that autocracy to one of these other types of distribution of power is how you work your way towards monarchy being gone. Other important ones, I would say long term, you want open borders. The only reason I say that is if you look at the individual states, because there's so many people, Punjab, the capital state, there's 13 million people here. There's 16 million people in the entire country. You're predisposed to building in Punjab. Once you have open migration, you will see that these other states, people will migrate to them. If you've done a good job developing your economy over the game, people will migrate to other states that you move into. I got unbalanced in my game, and I'll show you a picture of my game when we get to the end of how I got there and what I looked like. But I end up getting unbalanced here because there's so many people. So I wanted migration late game to allow me to have the population necessary to build up my military as I was using professional armies. Professional armies is great in one sense because you look at the building, you can build 100 barracks. So you can have theoretically 300 units of troops right at the beginning of the game, which is very, very strong. Cost-wise, it's not really possible. And if there's not enough people to support the army, you're not going to be able to do that. But as you can see early on, you have a lot of peasants, so that's not that big of a deal. You have 2.84 million peasants here. That's huge. It means that you can just build. I think getting out of serfdom is also very good. It weakens the landowner. I would abolish serfdom as soon as you can. Colonial affairs would be my number one thing to adjust. Number two would be distribution of power and then governance principles. Number three is education. Now, this will change based upon what actual options you have. Some leaders of the parties will have a focus that may allow you to prioritize education or colonial affairs or distribution of power early, or even the economic system, or even taxation, right? Some of those things could definitely change. So you could have pushes towards that direction. If you see an opposition party pushing that direction, and you know that they won't have a revolution, go for it. Just be careful. Definitely have to change some laws around. So now we've looked at laws, we looked at institutions, we looked at military. Let's look at the economics at the start. Let's look at the production list. Good bit of farms. You have silk, you have opium, which is good for military, for your hospitals, your military. Very, very strong export. You will make lots of money off opium throughout the game. Resources. You only have coal mines and logging camps to start. You cannot succeed with just these three. You have to move fast. This resource is not enough. Where do you go? I suggest going west. Why? Well, first of all, if you look at Kalat here, Balochistan is its single province. It has iron, lead, and logging camps. All great. I would definitely suggest going for Balochistan first. That's what I've done in every game I played. The other reason that I suggest going west are these guys, the East India Company. If you do anything over this way, you're going to run into East India Company in Britain. At the beginning of the game, you do not want to do that. You need some time to build up your economy and get stronger before you start taking on Great Britain and their subsidiary. I always suggest going for Kalat early. That gives you natural resources to get started. Then I suggest Makran. So this is kind of the traditional path I would take. I go Kalat first, Makran second. You can get an alliance with Persia, okay, but you can see they're wary here. If you move quickly, I've gotten them to back down a few times and just attacked them without an issue. The big one is Russia, because Russia was very aggressive in both my games, along with East India Company. And one of the reasons I lost one of my first games is because the East India Company, when I started this fight with Kalat, they invaded. They have to be careful that they don't take a domineering approach to me, because then they'll try to attack you. And they are stronger than you to start off. But you're also much stronger than Kalat, so you could conquer them very quickly. So you take Kalat, go for iron lead, go for Makran, give you a little more iron lead, and now you have a port. That is my initial starting strategy. This is where you have a lot of choice at that point. There are multiple things you could do. You could go for Afghanistan, you can go for Kabul. You can see they have a lot of coal and iron there. They may join with Persia, so just be aware that if you do that, you may have to fight both of these guys. That might not be great for you. You could also go up north to Kokand. I don't know that you would want a direct land border with Russia. They're going to come south. They do it every time. So just know that. I would definitely improve relations with Great Qing if you can. Even Russia, if you can get diplomatic relationship with them, go for it. So if you're moving along in the game, you're building some of these. If you can get colonial affairs, you can start colonizing. There's a very important distinction you need to make. If we go to technology, very important set of tech, that's right over here. One is quinine, so it removes all effects of malaria in your own colonies and states and allows establishment of colonies and states with your malaria. That's huge because look at a lot of these places, and I did the colonization route. If you look at a lot of these places, has severe malaria. If you do not get quinine, you cannot colonize here, and you want to colonize. Southern Africa is the best place to colonize. In terms of natural resources. There's so many natural resources here. So many. You have so much stuff. So you can really just look at all the lead, the coal, and then obviously coffee and cotton and iron. There's a bunch of iron up there too. I realized this. I was like, okay, if I go quinine, that can allow me to start establishing colonies there. However, you establish extremely slow. My suggestion is actually to pick Oceania as an interest. That also is a very good choice if you want to fight Great Britain a lot. And one thing you can exploit in the game is interest, strategic interests. Give an example. Say I want to invade Kalat. You can see that these countries may join either side or remain neutral. These are countries that have an interest in this specific region. That's important because only people who can join a war that you start are people who are interested in that specific region. Why I suggest getting some land in Oceania is if you go and fight Great Britain, you can start the war in Oceania. Most large countries will not have an interest here because they will not be there, especially if you colonize all of these colonies out in Oceania. If you go out there yourself and colonize, and it's very important to note, they don't have malaria, so you can colonize quickly. Go out there, you don't have to research quinine. You can go here first without that research even being done. You colonize all this, they won't have a reason to have an interest. So you'll be in a position where it's basically just you versus Great Britain and their subsidiary. And you can use that where you can add like a war goal somewhere else and slowly chip away at Great Britain until they're weaker. That's one way to do it. You can colonize with the intention to fight immediately and kind of wear them down. And like I said, look at here, there's no malaria. And because there's no malaria, you colonize a lot faster. Indonesia and Oceania are both great. I love them. So just to recap one more time, movements are in not necessarily in order, just to think about it. Getting to the sea, being aggressive early, taking out some of these weaker guys around you, growing, getting natural resources you need like iron and lead to build your economy, working on your laws, getting them more favorable for colonization, education, labor, and governing, and taxation once you get there, working on technology to colonize. What I did later on is I actually forced straight down to malaria prevention. Did it very early. That removes all effects from severe malaria in your own colonies and state. You do that early. If you focus on that early, you can go down here to South Africa and take all of this land because the other AI will not have researched it. They won't prioritize. Take all that land super fast. And that will give you lots of new population, lots of natural resources, all the issues you might have had with resources and being dependent on some of these larger countries. That is how I became powerful. I'm going to load my game. So here I am. This is after I've just completed Empire Under the Pun. So what I did, exactly as I said to you guys, this is what I did. I went south and I took Balochistan, which is actually one province. Once you take it all, it becomes one province. I then colonized. You could see this is Punjab. So I did not conquer any of this. I colonized all this. It's all colonized by me. And it's because technology-wise, I went straight to malaria prevention very early. I have Eastern and Western New Guinea, which I talked about, Celebes, and everything out here. Something interesting happened to me. I mentioned earlier about, if you look, there's only one person who has an interest in Oceania at this point is Hawaii. So it's like you're in a massive, massive advantage over here, especially if you want to chip away at Great Britain, where you could start a war here. If this is Great Britain's puppet, fight a war here, add a war goal somewhere else, and you take some of Great Britain's land and slowly weaken them over time. Now, what happened to me, unfortunately, is that Australia became independent of Great Britain very early on. My Great Britain had a lot of trouble. They were not number 1 or number 2 by the time I fought them in 1914. They were actually quite weak, which is why I was able to puppet them in one war. I literally puppeted them in one war, which is why right now I have 178 infamy, and no one likes me. Everyone hates me. But I got the achievement, and that's all that matters. I basically just colonized. That was my choice. My choice was, hey, I'm going to colonize because I don't have sort of the exploit of going after them here and isolating them. So I needed to be stronger than them outright. There's no other place I could really attack them on their own. And I just waited until I got to the point where I was outright stronger than Great Britain and all of their colonies, and I attacked them. And it was really due to my colonization and pushing my technology tree down to malaria prevention early. But I could not have done that if I didn't change my laws. I'm parliamentary republic, I have universal suffrage, multicultural, total separation, proportional taxation, successfully switched my government around to a democratic republic. See that the rural folk are still in power, and that's really because there's just a lot of people. I mean, I have 45 million people, and like there's just a lot of peasants still. Even after building, level 83 tooling workshop, level 73 motor industry, urban center is 148. It's massive. I still have 2 million peasants. I never ran out of peasants. I was building constantly and never ran out of peasants. That's pretty much it. I would say, like I said, get to the sea, colonize, go east, go to Indonesia, go to Australia, either chip away at Great Britain or force research like I did, get big and strong and take them outright. I do want to note, finally, I was not very aggressive. You can be more aggressive than me. I played it safe and went for more colonization economy. That's just how I play the game. I know other people who are very successful in this chip away strategy. So don't feel like you have to do this way. You can do more where you try to fight more around India and slowly chip away this way. You can do that too. Or you could go west and try to take more Persia and Afghanistan. I think that's both viable options. But for me, colonization works the best. Thank you for watching this video. I just wanted to pull up the achievement screen at the end just so you can see that I did, in fact, complete the achievement. I really enjoyed this run. It's very fun. There are some RNG aspects at the beginning of the game, but I think even though it's very hard, it's very doable. I really do think if you follow the strategies I talked about or use the skills that you've learned from the game yourself, that you will have a very successful time completing this achievement. Less than 1% of people have completed it, but I really do think it's very achievable. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and just thank you so much for looking at my video. Have a great day.